Hi, Carter.
We're going to talk about what we just talked about.
Are we? Is that what we're going to do? We're here at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine 2025 conference in Grapevine, Texas. You've been up
and
since 3 a.m.?
I've been up since 3 a.m. Eastern.
Which was, so you win because I didn't get up until 4.
Well, I went to bed at 11.
And I went to bed at 10.
And I took the dog out at 12:30.
You absolutely win. So your sleep score is worse than mine.
Mine was a 67. The day before it was a 91, which is my highest score.
Ever?
I think so.
I got a 96 before. All
okay.
right.
Well.
So we just had a really great interview with somebody that I have wanted to interview since I started a podcast. It was like 2 years ago, which was Dr. Sachin Jain.
And what did you learn?
I learned that I'm not really sure how we're ever going to combine healthcare with food. It's so
Why is
difficult. It's so difficult to get our minds out of the economics of one industry versus the other and think about it as a system design challenge of chronic disease.
Well, if you want to completely re-engineer it and centrally figure out how to do that, it's very difficult.
I know. And it's just, he is one of my favorite leaders in healthcare. He's a very innovative thinker. He's a very provocative leader. I mean, he shared with us, I wish we had had longer because the next question I would have asked him was, he even said, I'm a rarity. I believe that a lot of that MAHA is going to end up making healthcare better. Like it's going to lead to healthier. I mean, he had a favorable stance on that. We didn't dig into it though. I wanted to hear what tailwinds or what he thought. I mean, it wasn't like whatever. His point was there's some good stuff in there.
Well, so I think we did talk a little bit about concerns about misinformation. When we talked about diet, he was concerned that people don't know what the right diet is.
Yes. Use the analogy of seatbelts, which I think is a good one. I've had other people use that with me.
So, a way that maybe we need to think about this is it's not going to be perfect in the process of transformation. What it needs to be is exponentially good. So let me restate that. It's not, let's figure out how to deliver chronic care. Let's get rid of the need for chronic disease. And so function health, we got in a little concern. You do function health, or you do an MRI, and you discover something, and then you go get a biopsy, and you get a pneumothorax, and which is all true.
And then the counter to that is you find something that's stage 1, you have it removed, and you're done.
So if MRIs become $100, if GLP-1 becomes $50, if the tools innovate and get better, there's a certain point in time, if you incorporate the ability to avoid false positives, there's a point in time.
Which is what Pronuvo's working on. They consider themselves a data company as opposed to a radiology company and scanning company.
So we're taking a problem that we've spent 100 years creating, and we've got a snapshot in time of the state of affairs.
Like, not even 100 years.
And I remember, Byte magazine in 1981 having a cover page of 1979, having the cover page of using the Altair 8000, which had no operating system. And then we had MS-DOS, and then we had Apple II. And so how do we know, to some degree it makes me wonder, it's like, how do we know whether we're midstream? And, the function of early adopters is in part to be the people who test the stuff that's not exactly right but then you keep the pressure on it. It's got to have the pressure on it to eliminate the false positives. So every concern that existing healthcare has in terms of false positives, for example, is a design condition for the new food system, for System C.
How do we get over the fact that healthcare just does not see the linkage to food unless it comes as a medical intervention? So is that where we slide in? Or, see, I think it's the opposite.
Human-based outcomes.
I actually think that I think it's more food leaning into healthcare. I think that is less friction than healthcare. Here's why. Healthcare is trying to keep people sick. Food is neutral. Food just wants to keep people happy. They don't have a vested interest in whether or not you are sick or healthy. They just want you to keep buying product. They want you to keep spending money. So, like, for example, if you could feed somebody same amount of calories but in a much healthier configuration for the same amount of money, food wouldn't care, right? They would just redesign food to match that.
Well, it's also, when we redesigned computers, we had mainframes, we had Wang word processors, we had mini computers at DEC, and Bill Gates came from the outside and Steve Jobs came from the outside, but there was one person on the inside over at IBM who's been forgotten because he died in a plane accident in 1989, who transformed the IBM PC and created it out of nowhere. But it is often very difficult for the insiders to do it. But putting that aside for a second, the other part of the conversation here is where he has written a lot about, like, the ethical responsibility of healthcare.
Yes.
To understand
Sachin
the impact of what
Dr.
they've
Jain.
done. So too the food system has a responsibility of thinking about that ethical impact. And that ethical impact is either we need to change what we do and deal with the off-target effects, or it could be that somebody who's a little bit on the outside sees the opportunity to fix it. And to some degree, we can't pick that. What we can do is make sure the capital's around to fund 100 so that one succeeds.
Agreed. And I guess it's more from I feel like food can see the path easier and they have less skin in the game of staying entrenched in the current. Like, I know a lot of people believe that the money's only in cheap calories and that food will never change as a result. And I don't agree with that anymore. I used to think that. I don't agree with that anymore. Healthcare, on the other end, until we really start to I think the hard part is bifurcating. Like, there's always going to be a need for acute care. And I don't feel like we have that middle care figured out.
Well, healthcare is reimbursed. It's regulated.
Correct.
Food's not. You could change your diet tomorrow, and nobody's going to step in and say that's not authorized or that's not standard of care.
Very true.
So it's a good early adopter market. Why do you study fruit flies? Is because you can rapidly change in those markets. So while function health may be expensive right now and may trigger false positives, and while Pronovo may be expensive right now and trigger false positives, is there a point in time where, like GLP-1s used to cost $1,500?
It's like a CBC. I mean, think about a CBC panel, a comprehensive, like you get a comprehensive metabolic panel, right? That's like standard.
If the CBC panel could just add a few more things to it, like A1C is still not in a CBC.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, you go in and it costs like $12 or something ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? It's so inexpensive.
I think it's like 50, but yes.
Okay, but my point is, like, that, I can guarantee you when that first came out, it didn't cost $50.
No, it did not.
So we got it down. So yes.
So, and to some degree, that's the packaging and it's what's included, and I think there's often a conversation about.
But again, like, that to me is just healthcare. That's just system B+. Like, we still aren't getting to how are we addressing making sure that people are doing the things that they need to do so that that inexpensive diagnostic panel that becomes more comprehensive doesn't find something.
Well, the nice thing here at College of Lifestyle Medicine is, to some degree, they are in that forefront on the healthcare side of stumbling around. We've got, I don't know how many booths
No,
here.
you've got, well, I'm looking right now, and we have El Nutra, which is Prolon, which you and I have both done, and there is tremendous evidence-based research that shows that cellular autophagy happens with fasting, and they are fast mimicking diet, right? And so that is all about that middle ground of keeping yourself, I mean, you don't have to wait until you have type 2 diabetes to do that, right?
Correct.
I've done it, and I find it highly effective. Look, remember I fasted, my heart rate variability improved, my deep sleep improved, like all the things that then lead to the next step, right? They all improve. We know our friend Andy Beckman from Garmin Health is over there. Samsung Health is here. What do we see over here? There's some kind of cool facial rubby thing. Maybe I'll go
facial
check
rubby
that out.
thing?
Yeah, there's like red lights.
What does it do for you?
I don't know, but there's sort of a hybrid here, similar to eudaimonia where I was the last 2 days. I could have stayed there. I got a hyperbaric treatment that made me feel like $1 million. Now,
You got
the day
into
before,
a hyperbaric chamber or eudaimonia?
Soft-sided, 30 minutes. I felt
Soft-sided?
literally, it was amazing because I took a really good nap in there. Yeah, you can do it at home.
Well,
But my point is, those are those like middle ground interventions that right now we consider like woo-woo, but they're what keep you.
the thing about food is it can rapidly change. I think that grocery still is in a position, grocery's got a lot of big changes it's got to make.
Yes.
It makes its money on slotting fees, and it makes its money on advertising to customers, and it makes a small amount of money selling you food. So their revenue streams have changed, and the opportunity is if there's a leader out of that space who's willing to make that change, they may very well see more margins if they solve the chronic disease problem, and they might be able to deliver that cheaper. And
That's what I think.
And the younger generation is willing to pay cash because they don't expect much out of healthcare, and healthcare costs are still going up in terms of the deductible.
And the dependence, I think what it is the entrenched underlying financial model of the incumbent legacy healthcare system is so misaligned that to disrupt that, even you heard the comment as we were walking out the door, I made the statement that lifestyle medicine, when you model it out, when you execute on it, it completely obliterates the cost curve in healthcare. And the response was not, that's not true. The response was, if healthcare actually wants that. And my comment was, vertically integrated, truly vertically integrated healthcare systems do, right? Because they own the health insurance risk as well as they deliver. And the skeptical answer was, most of those still don't. So, point being, right? Because like a lot of the main players right now on Wall Street that are healthcare, they make their money on pharmacy now, on PBMs, which is like the bastardization of making more money by making drugs higher priced. I mean,
the interesting thing of the period that we're at right now is everybody
is doubling down.
Everybody is on their last strategy.
Yes, they are.
They've tried everything.
Yes.
And deductibles are going up.
Yep.
We can't afford the subsidies to reimburse.
Yep.
We've plugged every hole we possibly can, and it's still not working.
And yet you've got people spending $2,200 for a 3-day event to go listen to Mark Hyman speak. Because
so consumers are willing to put their cash somewhere else. Now these are consumers that are small. There were
the early adopters.
1,500 there, and they range from people who maybe can't afford that $1,500 to people
there
that
were
the
people there that
$1,500.
were ponying up, $400 to go for the day.
So the people that maybe that was a lift, and then there are other people that,
Yes.
billionaires that
But I
it
can
was
tell,
indifferent.
well,
but
I
they
can
were all
tell
there.
you, they were all there. I can tell you though, that was not an event of just wealthy individuals by any means.
So you've got a mismatch, or you've got a wide array of different kinds of people, and they are early adopters. There's no signal in early adopters, but some of them will become referenceable.
Agreed.
And somewhere in there the trigger starts to occur. But I think I'm still sort of landing that where did we get this wrong? System A is the food system that evolution built for us, and humans were optimized for system A.
And environments were.
System B was our practical effort to scale the food system because we were growing humans at a faster rate than
food.
than evolution expected.
And then we needed the healthcare to keep them alive.
And then
because they were dying faster than we wanted them to.
Because we sped up because we were so good at inventing system B, over 100 years, we increased diabetes. And now we're on system C, which is...
Well, we're trying to get system C going.
Take the best of B and the best of A and get back to it. But that process, I think, still comes to what are the human-based outcomes, reveal the human-based outcomes, glycemic, inflammatory, hormonal, impacts on neurotropic or effects on the brain.
We want everybody to have this.
Reveal that, and then let people see what's happening on that, make it available to them so they've got transparent access to the data, and then allow them to move forward unconventionally, likely with food first.
Yep.
And have the system evolve.
Yep.
And the old elements of the system are going to fall down.
So what's your goal while we're here?
My goal is to find converts. Tom Sawyer invited all of his neighbors to help paint the fence. We've got a lot of work to do here.
You know the good news here?
What?
90% of this crowd's already converted.
Is already what?
Converted.
Well, we got to find the people that have a part to play in this.
Correct.
They don't have a conductor.
Correct.
They're running around with their tuba.
And
they play well.
That is this crowd.
They're looking for a conductor. And so we need to find some of those people and talk to them and
then get all the conductors. Any conductors that are here and all the conductors watching.
Yeah, all the tuba players and the trombone will get the ensemble going. And
okay, sorry, yes.
The Food is Health revolution will be the conductor.
All right, so we got our work cut out for us.
A couple days, we'll get it done.
Okay.
Since we recorded the first half of this, so it'll be fun for anybody watching this.
I don't even remember recording the first half.
I know, because it was the first night that we were there, and then we just sort of went into the normal trance of being in a place talking with 1 million people.
And what are we covering today?
So, what did you learn? What surprised you? What ignited you? How do we move this forward?
What did I learn? So we spent most of the time in interviews, and so had a lot of opportunity to talk to good people. It was a large crowd, and larger. So larger than last year, or right? So it's
it was significantly larger. It's 2,200 people.
So, and I'm not positive what's causing that leaning in. So a lot of practitioners who are dedicated to the notion of getting rid of chronic disease and pushing forward on the notion of lifestyle medicine. I think that there are many people being successful who have very focused efforts that are still within the classic realm of healthcare. and people still sort of worried about how to use the current building blocks. So you've got Snap over here, or you've got these different farmers over there, or the things are still separated into their current modules as they think through lifestyle medicine. And I think that there's an opportunity to guide them to say we can just redesign the system, and that when we did posture and say, what if HSAs were well funded? What if there was more cash in the hands of consumers? And as we, through some type of, as we've talked about, juicing up HSAs with the ACA enhanced subsidy. And that was a scale that people really hadn't thought about. I also raised the point with somebody that, one of the reasons why we've got the pressure to do this is when you look at us in China, both countries spend a lot on healthcare and both spend a lot on the military. And if China accelerates when GLP-1 goes off patent there in 2026, they can spend more on defense. And therefore, the government has a lot of interest in trying to figure out how to make Americans healthy from a geopolitical standpoint. And that's not really something that people thought about. There's no reason why they should think about it. But I think the forces at bay here and the opportunity, we've lined up the world nicely. We discussed the 5 pillars bringing down healthcare. One is the sickest patients now on GLP-1 make less revenue for hospitals. The patients that don't have chronic disease may avoid it because they take control of their healthcare. You got geopolitical pressure in terms of nation state defense and things like that. You have the enhanced benefit. And then we have the next generation of GLP-1s that are going to come down. And we have more people that are trying to figure out how to innovate in the area of lifestyle medicine. And so at every tier, from the front line to the practitioner, talking to patients, being creative and coming up with new business models, all the way up to Washington, I think we have a huge amount of forces all moving in the direction of
Agreed.
Food is health.
But I think the counterpoint to that, and this is what you heard with the question that was asked. Well, I don't think you were in the room. You had left, I think, on Wednesday morning. But Dr. Jay Joseph, who is the cardiologist who started the lifestyle medicine program in Tulsa at St. Francis, who I've worked with in terms of them potentially expanding their program, there was a question which was from the audience after his keynote, which was, how did you get your CEO to buy into this? And I think that is endemic of what the majority of the folks in that room would tell you, is that the assets that are owned today with lifestyle medicine are those clinicians, right? They're a big portion of those there's a set that are independent, which could be very much deployed the way you're talking about, although still reliant on the current healthcare funding system. And then the other 50% is owned by the incumbent legacy health systems that operate under the current healthcare finance model and do not see a way around that and out of that service line mentality. So
well,
they are looking.
I'm sorry, was your interpretation of that question, why did they care what the CEO, or that the CEO?
No, the interpretation was, how did you convince him? Because, my CEO wouldn't expand the program because they see it as like primary care. It doesn't make them any money, right? It's much better to do more joints. It's much better to have more beds. It's much better to have more acute care. And this is what you and I talk about.
And what was the answer?
He didn't have a good answer because the CEO was, and there's still been some political discourse about exactly how that program fits in. But it's a good, he answered it very politically correct. But that whole situation to me was the exact epitome of, we have over 2,000 people that came together around a board certification that is so simple in its delivery, and as Nudge proved through their Corewell partnership, can literally take 60 to 70% easily of chronic disease, established chronic disease cost out of the system, right? Like, we're not even talking about avoiding pre-chronic. We're talking about actually taking cost out of the existing chronic disease burden. It's such a powerful yet simple tool. But again, we go back to this. It's you monetize sickness. That's how you keep the engine running. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not saying this to be negative. I'm just being, that's where we're at.
if you go through the episode of Disruptive Change and you go back through history, sometimes there are incumbents that have particular reasons they want to protect things, but that's sort of like a ship that's going down. Like, I want to keep bailing it out.
Oh, totally.
And people can get committed to those things, and they will. I think that the agility between agentic AI, between GLP-1s, between cash availability, people are like, oh, who has the money to do this? People are spending cash to stay alive.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are a lot of very important motivations here, including that the dog apparently right now wants to play. But we're just watching that disassemble in some way. I think from the standpoint of what we're trying to do from a food as health standpoint is, if we focus on the first principle of human-based outcomes, and start working on those economic models. I mean, we're sort of on a 20-year correction here. It took us 50 to get into this ditch.
Yep.
I think those are good things to have those fights. And I think what we need to do, what people need to do, is keep pressing forward. And one interesting thing is, the Hippocratic Oath and humanity in this particular case will cause some people from System B to just realize they've got to change. Whereas if we were talking about getting rid of mainframes or mainframe computers for PCs or something, those, I'm not sure what those incumbencies are like. There's not a moral mission there. But I was enthusiastic in terms of, we got to push harder. And I think we need to, could you please stop biting me? Sorry, the dog is playing with me. This isn't exactly apropos, but this is life here at 6:00 in the evening in the Midwest. We need to start working on how to persuade Wall Street this is investable. We need, since we were out at ACLM, Lilly has announced that they're going to work directly with corporates to provide GLP-1 into their programs. I mean, they're going direct to corporates around the PBMs and around a lot of the systems to really provide a direct obesity mechanism. Lilly's doing that directly. I mean, that's a pretty, they're going to be the first, that's like one step, but there are going to be 20 more of those kinds of steps. I think that the gloves are off in terms of, are people going to provide new technology? And I think that Lilly has the opportunity to define this for people and put some scale on it. And that we do know that while people look at Lilly and Novo in a System B category and say, well, you're pharma and you just want to get people on drugs. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But they also have the technical capability to integrate food, to integrate nutrition.
No. I mean, it goes back to consumer signal, all this. I mean, even hospitals, I think I think the biggest challenge is that not the biggest challenge, but the disintermediation of healthcare, of our license to choose healthcare, the funding of it, all those things, it has made it so that consumer demand, that latent consumer demand, can't be felt. Like you know what I'm saying? Like that's in
Do
his.
not see the signals
Correct.
from consumers are getting
Correct.
lost. And Lilly, a way to think about this, we did that hedge fund article a little while ago, is the people that are getting closer to the signal are going to get closer to the information necessary to figure out what happens next. And
Exactly.
what Lilly is doing, in a sense, is they are moving away from the hospital system, and they're moving away from doctors and getting closer to the signal of what consumers want. And
Well, they're seeing it's a barrier. They're seeing that in their example, right? That healthcare, the system of healthcare, is truly a barrier for what consumers are actually want.
And anybody who gets closer to the consumer to understand it has the opportunity to build a better product. So if they're going to come down there and say, you know what, we're just trying to replicate statins and extract as much rent, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it sounds bad, extract rent, but if they're delivering value to those consumers, that's a good thing from a productivity standpoint. And as long as there remains competition so that somebody else can do the same thing, like La Nutra can do fast.
Oh, L Nutra. You're talking about
L
L Nutra,
Nutra.
which is Proline.
L Nutra can do fast mimicking diets. There's that opportunity for competition. If we can expand the amount of people that are getting closer to consumers. And that's why the HSA being funded with more cash, especially around dealing with chronic disease, is a really interesting dynamic because it unlocks the consumer signal. And so this is pretty cool. But I think we need to help Wall Street, capital providers, to understand the merging of the trains. Is, we've got two trains running down. One's food. The traditional system is running the end of the line off the end of the cliff, and we have healthcare running off a cliff. And these two things need to come together, which is never easy.
Well, but they're already related. They're already related. Consumers already have them related. We know this, right?
The consumers. So one thing about that market that people don't recognize is, at the end of the day, they all integrated the consumer, and the consumer sees them as integrated.
Exactly.
The rest of the system may not.
So I have to go because, as we've just acknowledged, the dog. Well, first of all, the fun part about this is that we have Mike Smart and Chris Geisler live watching us on LinkedIn, which is outstanding. They're like sending in comments.
Oh, so are they?
I just so you guys know, I was not thinking that this was going to be broadcast live.
But it is.
It doesn't matter, but it is, because this is how we roll. But my daughter just got home from college and is not happy about the fact that I am not inside. So I'm going to go over there. Say
hi to her and say that Bristol.
And Bristol with a squeaky toys. But it's all about bringing the capital together, which is what we're going to do in 2026.
My thing for Thanksgiving is thinking through how to get, $50 billion brought into this market. And
I don't think it's that hard. I think it's already there. It's just a matter of putting it together and people understanding it's there.
Well, why don't you go ask your daughter how to do it and then come back with the answer?
Okay. And then we'll jump back on LinkedIn Live.